Well, good morning and welcome to today's episode of The Word. We are glad that you are with us this morning. We want to take a look at the context of our relationship with God. Now, last couple of episodes, we've been talking about our relationship with God and the fact that He is who He is, and He is primary in our lives more than anything else. Today we want to talk about honoring the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. And what does all that mean as wonderful Lutheran question? So stick around with us this morning. We'll dive more into this right after this. So, what does honoring the Sabbath day and keeping it holy mean? Well, it means a lot to us as Christians, and I'm hoping to you as well. First of all, honor. What does honor mean? Honor means respect, adore, utilize, live within the framework of, which means as we honor the Sabbath day by keeping it holy, we are honoring it by living in it and what the context is. Sabbath day. Originally, it was designed to be a day of rest, a day where God's people would set aside the work, meaning they don't do anything. They set aside the fields, they set aside the job, they set aside the store, they set aside it to spend time with God and family. With God and family. They set everything aside, meaning no going to the stores, no opening the stores. The fields don't get worked for that day, not only for the owner of the farm, but also for those who were their hired hands. Honoring the Sabbath day means honoring God in a way where God stopped working and He set that day aside for people to be in a relationship with Him, so that we stop doing what we have been doing for 6 days. 6 days you shall do your labor, but on the seventh day set it aside as a day to God. For us as Christians now, the Sabbath day may not be the identical day of the week that it is for the Jewish people. For us, the Sabbath day is set aside as Sunday because that is the day on which Jesus rose to life. He rose to life on Sunday, the day after the Sabbath day. And so that is our Sabbath day for us. It is Sunday. That's why we worship, for the most part, on Sunday mornings. Now, back in the day, and I'm thinking about a couple of hundred years ago, back in the day that the family all got into their carts and they rode over to the church in the morning and they spent the entire day with their church family. They went to worship, they received the sacraments. If that was the day, they had a meal together, they spent time together, and then eventually rode home. So the entire day was spent amongst brothers and sisters, family members, and the like. We have now gone into a more technologically advanced era. Now we can drive to church. And I dare say it, sometimes it is a challenge for us to spend an hour. We drive in to spend an hour with God. And then we go home. We spend our time with families. This was the way it was up until about the 1970s. And then all of a sudden, shopping malls started to open up. Stores were opening up on Sundays, so that allowed people to maybe purchase a few things before Monday morning. Those kind of things. But what happened is it detracted from the context of the Sabbath being time spent with God and family. Now it's being divided. Well, enter into the 1990s, 1980s and 90s, where children are being asked to be in more and more activities, more and more sporting events, more and more dance events. I can't think of them off the top of my head. You know how many events that there are. Tournaments are now being played on the weekends, but they're not being played on Friday evening and all day Saturday and leaving Sunday alone. Not anymore. Now it's Friday evening, all day Saturday and Sunday. Baseball tournaments are taking football tournaments, soccer tournaments, volleyball tournaments, cheer tournaments, tournaments, events are now bleeding into the Sabbath day of rest. The question then becomes, when does a person rest? Not just a cessation, a stopping of activities, but rest in the presence of God. When does a person do that anymore? It's becoming more and more difficult, is it not? So my suggestion is to look at your life in the context of, where are you in your relationship with God? You may not think that this is all wild and crazy, but I remember having conversations with parents, back in the early 2000s, where they were getting very, very frazzled, having to take one child to this, one child to something else, one third child to something else entirely, and trying to make their way in between all of these events. And at what point in time do you say, I quit? Where's my time? Where's my rest? Have I really rested? Parents, you ask that question. Where is your rest? Well, I would like to offer a rest for all of you. And yes, it's for a couple of hours on Sunday morning to rest in God, to be with Him, to rest in His presence, to rest in His strength, comfort, joy, peace. Yes, sometimes we need to have our ways of life pointed out and challenged. And yes, to have the pointed out the solution to our challenges and the like. And maybe, just maybe, you will begin the process of finding this rest in God. And then your rest in God will become more and more of a priority. You begin to choose things and choose events that will allow you to be at rest with God. To stop all the activities, to stop all the work, to stop all the stress, and to be able to rest in the wonderful presence of God. You know, it's interesting because how can we rest in God? It's simple. Jesus took all that stuff upon Himself. All the stresses, all the strains, all the worries, all the sins, all the times where we have neglected God in many and various ways. Jesus took that all on for you and for me. And because He took all of that on, He has given us rest. He has given us His grace, His mercy, His peace. He's given us His resurrection. He's given us His life so that we do rest in God. So let's take a look at our lives in some ways. Are you struggling? Are you hurting? Are you tired? Are you worn out? Maybe it's time for you to rest in God. And I will put a blatant plug out here. And maybe it's time for you to rest in God with us. Come rest with God in joy and singing and praising and worshiping and receiving the love that God has given to us. All right. I think that'll wrap it up for today. Give us a thumbs up. Thank you for watching this. Please share it with your friends, and we will look to seeing you on Sunday morning as we post up the next episode of the Word, and see you in study as well as in worship. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.